Hello, we are in Bourbon County, Kansas. I stayed the night in Fort Scott, Kansas. It's a really historic place. This video is not about Fort Scott, but this is where I stayed the night because it's the closest place I could find to where I wanted to get my day started, which is the Kansas-Missouri border. And I like to try to find, I guess, reasons or excuses to go into the middle of nowhere and try to explore new towns and new communities that I've never been. I say new to me, but most of them are actually pretty old. And so in this video, I'm gonna just kind of straddle the state border between Kansas and Missouri. There's a ton of history. Civil War, the Border War, Bleeding Kansas, all that kind of stuff in this area. And I'm just curious about what is left today in places that were probably very violent, or certainly people disagreed from one side of the line to the other. So I'm looking for little dots on the map, both on the Kansas and Missouri side, and we'll just see what we can find. Maybe we'll learn a little bit about those towns' histories. Maybe there'll be a little more history about what happened back in the day. If anything, we'll just find a bunch of places I've never been to before, and we'll start here kind of east of Fort Scott. I've got two gazetteers here. I got my Kansas gazetteer and my Missouri gazetteer, and I'm trying to kind of line up the maps. And you see Garland right there. It's on both maps. So Kansas map, Missouri map. That looks like that's in Kansas. And we're right there on the border on 54. And we're going to head south and basically follow that border and find things like Clarksburg, Garland. Those are obviously on the Kansas side. We'll look over here. Is there anything on the Missouri side? Maybe Swart. And just try to find stuff on both sides. So obviously Oskaloosa is on Missouri. Arcadia is on the Kansas side. And so I'll use both maps to kind of see if I can find stuff. So like that Swart dot on the map, which is probably just an old railroad stop, is not on the Kansas map. So that's why I got both maps, and we'll see what we can find. And actually, as I flip up the page, to the north on 54, there's Bunville and Eve. So I'm going to have a rule of about maybe just a couple miles east or west of that border. I'm not going to go quite all the way to Deerfield. By the way, this green 43 right there, I did a video in this area before on Missouri Route 43. If you never seen that one's pretty cool. But yeah, so just a couple miles east and west. I'm guessing there's not much in these two, but we'll go start our video there and then head south. Our first dot on the map is Bunville, and I couldn't find anything about Bunville. So if anybody knows about Bunville or why it's a dot on the map, let me know. There is a building there, it says Farm Hand, and maybe it was an old restaurant or some sort of business, and an abandoned signpost there, but that's the only thing I could find here in Bunville. But right up the street is Eve as we're heading south, and it was originally called Clayton Station when the railroad was extended right here. You see the railroad right in front of us. They changed the name because they had another Clayton in the state. They didn't want to have any confusion. The actress Alice Margaret Ghostly was born in 1923 at the train station here in Eve. And there's not too much remaining here. A couple houses and this church. And just a little further down the road is the ghost town of Katy that took its name from the Katy Railroad and had a post office for a very short amount of time. Obviously just a stop on the railroad. So there's Katy right in front of us, kind of in the middle of the picture. And then as we pan to the left, that's where Eve and then Bunville would be. And kind of in the middle, there is a business, and you can see how the railroad has a, somewhat of a circular path there. So kind of an interesting thing. I don't know what they might use that for, but interesting part here in Katy. And then we start heading south a few miles, and our next little dot on the map is Swart, and it was named after a gentleman named Swart, and there were different names with a S on the end or a Z like Swartz, but I think they landed on Swart. And there's definitely not much left of Clarksburg except maybe part of an old building right here, but a coal mining company established a switch station here in 1871, and the village of Clarksburg grew up around it. Most of the residents worked in the strip mines. At one time they had a population of over 800, but a town site was never platted. And all that's left is that building, the cemetery, and then found an old building over here across the road as well. Here's an interesting small community named Garland. Originally there was a post office called Appleton. It was started in 1866 that was near here, and then this town started because of the railroad and kind of took over that post office in the 1870s. Memphis was the railroad's terminus, and they projected that railroad to go from Kansas City to Memphis, Tennessee. And so then they found coal fields in the vicinity, and the town became an important coal shipping point, and population went to about 350. But by the early 1880s, population dropped down to about 100. In 1886, they changed the name of the town to Garland after a brand of stoves. There's certainly some old buildings in the downtown area to check out, but most of the town really feels like a ghost town. A lot of abandoned houses and different structures as you drive around the back roads. Our first incorporated town of the day is Arcadia. It began in 1844 with a settler named Howell, who opened a blacksmith shop and built a log home on Cherokee land through his marriage to a Cherokee woman. In 1857, a guy named Phil Hathaway bought Howell's claim and established a stage shop and a tavern on the military road here. To secure the land rights, Hathaway opened a post office named Cox's Creek, later renamed it Arcadia in 1867 after the ancient region in Greece. During the Civil War, Hathaway was captured by guerrilla forces but escaped with the help from Union troops. Arcadia grew with the arrival of the railroad in the 1880s. It became a hub with various businesses, churches, and a population of several hundred, went all the way up to 1,175 in 1920 as mining boosted the population, but then has declined significantly over time. There are a lot of great old buildings and history as you drive around Arcadia, as you can see in the video, so really cool spot to come and explore. Oskaloosa was named after Oskaloosa, Iowa, which was the native home of several of the first settlers. Thought I would find a little bit more here as the dot on the map was bigger, but maybe an old church right there is about all I could find. A lot of the dots on the map coming up were old coal towns or coal camps or something like that, and Coalvale here was one of them. It was operated by the Lewis Coal Company in the 19th century. And then on to Gross, and it was a station and shipping point on the St. Louis and San Francisco Railroad, named for the landowners here. Miners who resided in this non-company camp worked in nearby mines of various coal companies. There were two dots here, Red Onion and Mertz. Red Onion was known for its coal mining operations, and I'm guessing Mertz was too, but I couldn't find any information on Mertz. Croburg was named after the Crow Coal Company that was in operation from 1900 to 1940. In 1910, they had a population of 125. Until 1912, Croburg was a sundown town where African Americans were not allowed to live. Obviously, that changed as the community later had both a black church and a black school. This is an interesting one, as that railroad there you see basically is Missouri on the right, Kansas on the left, pretty close to that railroad. So we'll start with the left side, which is Kansas, and that's Mulberry, and an incorporated town. As you can see the population there, originally known as Mulberry Grove. It was founded around 1866 and named after the surrounding grove of mulberry trees. It was a favorite Osage Indian campsite, later became a frontier stop along the military road between Fort Scott and Fort Gibson. The arrival of the railroad, the town grew and mines were opened by 1871, making Mulberry a major coal shipping point. And as you see in the population, it went up to over 2,500 people. So there's a lot of people in this area, and Mulberry played a vital role in Kansas's mining and railroad history. As we head a little bit to the east and drive on the State Line Road, which is right here in the middle of the community, on that right side of the screen, that's Burgess, Missouri, and it was named after a business person in the mining industry. There's not much to Burgess. A few old buildings like this. Don't believe it had a post office or was incorporated, so obviously it's just kind of connected to Mulberry on the west side of town. There's the cemetery, and Mulberry is that way. That's the border, that creek. There's a headstone. John Watson, 1882. I don't know why, but he is literally right on the border. Some more mining dots on the map. Fuller was a coal mining town with the Kansas City Railroad station and had a population of over 300 in 1910. On to Kernville, same kind of deal, but their population was almost 800 in 1910. So quite a community there. And there's still a few houses left in these communities, but nothing remains of anything that looked like a town. And another one here, Foxtown, another mining camp. I don't think it had a post office, but they had a school and a church and several businesses. Yale was a mining town on the Missouri Pacific Railroad, served as a primarily African-American mining camp from 1890 to 1930. In the 1890s, Yale was involved in the Big Four strikes in 1893 and 99. Both strikes resulted in many non-union black miners being brought to the area to work in the mines. In 1893, 375 black miners settled in Yale. During both strikes, black miners were brought to Yale via the Missouri Pacific Railroad by the Western Coal Mining Company. 1899, black miners arriving at Yale were shuttled into a stockade to protect them from white striking miners who were not pleased by their arrival. By 1900, Yale had grown into a substantial town. Racial violence and anti-black sentiment was prevalent in the area. And by the 1930s, most of the African-American population had been forced out of their homes and moved to Kansas City. There's a little bit of the town left here, but mostly it's a ghost town. We're going to stop here in Yale today. That's going to be our last town. Next time we'll pick it up in Minden Mines, Missouri, which is across the border. We're near Highway 160 and feel like this will be a good place to stop. This is a unusual little town, and it obviously was on the railroad. It has that old Yale area, pumpkin patch, and just kind of fun stuff. They have two restaurants. One is Chicken Mary's and one is Chicken Annie's. So there's got to be a story about that, because there is not a very big community, but there's two of those places. I'm sure there's a good story behind that. But yeah, this was a pretty interesting day exploring these places. It took a while to get to some of them because, you know, they're down back roads. There was one, or there were many that were nothing there, and you know, maybe had post offices or maybe didn't, and sometimes it's kind of a mystery, but that's also the fun part of it. Found some really cool places and a couple incorporated towns. You know, Arcadia had a lot of old buildings to check out, so I really enjoyed that one. So yeah, we'll come back here and do this again, starting here and heading down and finishing up at the bottom of Kansas. Didn't quite make it all the way there today. I got an update on the Chicken Mary, Chicken Annie thing. So I decided to eat end of the day. I went to Chicken Mary. I had no idea which one to pick. I just went with Chicken Mary. I'll have to do Chicken Annie's next time. And apparently they were sisters and they didn't get along and maybe had debates on who made the best food. So they made separate restaurants. And in the menu of the one here at Chicken Mary, there was a story about her. And it's been here for 80 years, so I guess both of these restaurants are very old. Very unique, interesting, huge portions, and really, really good. So good job, Chicken Mary. I'm sure Chicken Annie, you're equally as good. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of that video. And now that you're here, let me tell you a little bit about some of the extras that we have on the channel. One of the things you can do is you can become a member. There's 3 levels. There's the supporter level, there's the producer level, and the executive producer level. And all 3 levels have different perks, and as you are more supportive financially, there's more perks. We have extra videos every week and a lot of fun stuff going on in the member section. If you haven't done so, make sure you check out travelwithawiseguy.com. We've got lots of extra stuff on there, and one of the things is merchandise. You can get you Travel with a Wise Guy t-shirt. We have Death Go Round t-shirts. We have some coffee mugs, different things that are a lot of fun, and people seem to have enjoyed. Good quality there. Also on the website, you can do things like check out the Google map. I have a pin dropped in every place I've done videos about, then a link to the video so you can look at the map, and maybe there's somewhere where you live or somewhere you want to go. You can check out that map, and it seemed to be a very popular thing. You can sign up for my newsletter. I do that about every 3 weeks. It's totally free. And there's also all kinds of other links and tidbits in there, old videos, podcasts, just everything I could think of I throw on the website. So make sure you check out travelwithawiseguy.com. Thank you for everyone who has been supportive of this channel, and thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. And now for the reason you're probably here, the outtakes. Well, we have a ghost town death go round, Garland, Kansas. See if it spins at all. Oh, go! Definitely needs oiled up. Very authentic though. I like it. I'll give it 7 for the authenticity. Arcadia. See what you got. It has definitely been rebuilt and runs smooth. I like it. I'm gonna give that an 8.5.